So when we started reading the Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions, this was really my first try at being conscious of my answer using like the flashlight method. And so when we identified the soaps of the piece, I said that the general idea and message was that women have been cheated of their rights and treated wrong. Now this is correct, and it is it would be in the middle of the beam, but it was just really, it didn't take much thought, and it was just the first thing that came to my mind. But it also made me realize that there's so many more interpretations of this, because when we talked about this in our groups, I realized that there were different answers that I would have never even thought of, but were still in the beam. So then I really started to get even more into depth when we started talking about the Scarlet Letter and chapters 7 through 10. When we were talking about the Governor's Garden and what it symbolized, I tried to be more broad, but still right in the middle of the beam. So I said the Governor's Garden is more messy and out of control, and the Old England gardens are more put together, which symbolizes the different lives that they lived. And when I got to my group, almost everybody in that group had a different interpretation of the question, which was, what does the Governor's Guard really symbolize? And it also made me realize that there are a lot of different interpretations that follow in the beam. And so I kept going with that and adding on to that. And then when we read the piece about Hillary Clinton's hair, it really started to make more sense to me on what the idea of the flashlight really was. Because in Stop Overanalyzing Hillary Clinton's Hair, the main idea is that women are being judged based on what they wear more than men are. And while we were talking about this, just hearing the things other people were saying about it, and how they were all right and all in the beams, it just made me realize how wide each beam really is, and how you can really go with a lot of different things. And so, where it says, here's a good rule of thumb for political commentators. The clothing you're writing about says more about you than it does about her. And so I think my interpretation of this that I wrote about was that it says something more about her as in girls in general, and that they're judged a lot more harshly than men are. But talking with my group about it, some of them thought that maybe it was about more of the writer and what the writer chose to look at and see within the clothes that the girl was wearing. So it wasn't really the perspective of what the women were, but how the men and people decided to judge what they're wearing. And so this just shows how I really started with no idea about what the flashlight really even was, and then I started using it first in my reading journal, and then I used it, I tried to get more broad with the women's rights pieces, and then even more broad with the Scarlet Letter. And also in the Scarlet Letter, when we're talking about the symbols, I said Pearl was the product of sin, and that sin is not always such a terrible thing, or the product of sin is not always a terrible thing, which was also right. And just talking about it with my group, just like the other things, made me really realize how I was growing with learning about the flashlight. Because when I'd started, I would have just said, well, Pearl is she's just the product of sin. She's just what happened. She's just what happened because of the adultery. She's just the symbol of the outcome of adultery. But just learning more about it, it made me learn new ways to think about it, and how there could be more than one right way, but also some that make more sense. And then also, when we talked about the rose bush in class, I made a few notes that said, I drew a little flashlight, and I said that for me, in the middle, it symbolized the bright side of the dark tunnel. And so this helped me able to really visualize and think about the flashlight because of the image it gave me of when you shine a flashlight into a tunnel, how there's a beam, and I don't know, this just really helped me visualize the whole thing and how there's different meanings to each one. And also, with Perrine, I started to also look back at some of the old things we read, and started to analyze those as well. And so since the beginning, one of my hardest struggles was finding the main, just the one thing that really stood out and that fit into the beam the most, and the main symbol that really pulled all the details of it together. But since we've been reading and writing a lot about symbols and talking about them as a class, I've really learned that there's more than one right way, but there's also ways that are righter than others. And I've been using this in not only my reading journals and my synthesis papers, but also in real life, just thinking about interpretations like about Hillary Clinton's hair, and how some people could look at it and say she looks good today, or that or just think nothing of it other than it's her hair, but how other people could look at it and interpret it as because she has a hairstyle, she's going to want to use her political power in a different way. And so overall, I just really grew in my goal in learning about the flashlight and using it in my writing.